So I'm going to be explaining what arithmetic sequences are. I'm also going to be giving you examples of how to solve for a recursive and explicit rules. I will also give you an example of so you can get an idea of what a arithmetic sequence is. So let's get started. So in this slide we see what a arithmetic sequence is. It is a sequence that has the pattern of adding a constant to determine consecutive terms. So the numbers that are written below is an example that I chose so for you to get a basic of the idea of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about arithmetic sequences. So the first number that is given to you is -5. So that would be our first number, and then the numbers that follow it are what we get from adding our ratio, which our ratio is 4 because that's what we are adding from. So -5 plus 4 is -1, and then -1 plus 4 is 3, and then you get the idea. And -4 is our ratio because we are using that number to get the answers for the next number that keep going on and on. So keep that in mind, that the ratio is the number we use for the pattern to keep going in the numbers. And so let's move on. So the first question that it shows us is the table shows the number of plates left behind at a buffet after n hours. Complete the recursive rule and explicit rule after the arithmetic sequence described by the table. So the table shows us the time and the number of plates. And it shows us how in the first hour there were 174 plates left behind. The second hour, 161. The third hour, 148. The fourth hour, 135. And the fifth hour, 122. In order to solve the recursive and explicit rule, we need to know what f of 1 is and the common differences. The common difference is mostly like your ratio. You get the common difference by either adding on or subtracting. So for this one, it is obvious that we are subtracting in order to go, because you can see that it's 174 and then we get 161, so we won't be adding, we would be subtracting. So this shows us the explicit rule, which goes to the term right away. The recursive rule starts from the beginning to get to the answer. So f of n, it is asking us what was the first number in the table that we saw earlier, which if you took notes, you would know that it was 174. And the common difference was -13. The common difference is like a ratio. It's our ratio of what number we are using to get the next numbers after the first one. So for this one, it was -13 because 174 minus 13 would equal 161. And you can keep going -13 to get the rest of the numbers. So that's why it's -13. So for this one, for the recursive rule, this is how we would write the recursive rule. So the recursive rule, we would write f of 1 which is 174. F of n equals f of n minus 1, which is negative minus 13, for n to be greater than or equal to 2. So that's the way we would write the recursive rule. The first number, the ratio, and that's the info we need from the table that we get, or the set of numbers that they give us in the question. So, to write the explicit rule, you would need f of n equals 174, the same step as the recursive rule. Then you would subtract by the ratio to get your answer. That's what you would write for the explicit rule. So the first number, and then your ratio. Which that would be it in order to solve a explicit and recursive rule. So if you need any more help, you can always rewind the video to understand it a little bit more better. And yeah.